I pay homage to the Blessed One, the Supremely Enlightened Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu. I also pay homage to my teacher, Lukku Swamin Wahanse. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And dear Dhamma friends, if you can remember last Friday, we learnt about the greater discourse about the cowherd. Do you remember what is the Pali name? Cūළagopālaka Sutta, right? We discussed beautiful Dhamma taught by the Buddha in that discourse. And today we are going to learn about the shorter discourse on the cowherd. Okay, so let's see what we can learn from this sutta. Again, this is also again a beautiful sutta taught by the Blessed One, Cūළagopālaka Sutta.
So I have heard at one time the Buddha was staying in the land of Vajis near Ukachela on the bank of the Ganges River. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. Once upon a time, mendicants, there was an unintelligent Magadhan cowherd. In the last month of the rainy season, without inspecting the near shore or far shore, he drove his cattle across a place with no ford on the Ganges River to the land of the Suvidehans on the northern shore. But the cattle bunched up in the midstream and came to ruin right there. Why is that? Because the unintelligent cowherd failed to inspect the shores before driving the cattle across at a place with no ford. In the same way, there are ascetics and Brahmins who are unskilled in this world and in the other world, unskilled in Mara's domain and its opposite, and unskilled in death's domain and its opposite. If anyone thinks they are worth listening to and trusting, it will be for their lasting harm and suffering.
So here the Buddha teaches about this unintelligent Magadhan cowherd, right? Magadha is one of the provinces in India. So this cowherd had his cattle in that province. So why was he unintelligent? Because he didn't inspect the near shore and the far shore, right? And he just drove his cattle across a place with no ford. Okay, so where it was very dangerous and it was not a suitable place for the cattle to cross over. But unfortunately, he didn't have that ability to understand that. He didn't have that wisdom, so he lost his only wealth, and also all the cattle, the herd of cattle faced this calamity and disaster, right? And they lost their lives. And Buddha teaches in the same way, some teachers, some masters, or some religious leaders, they present some teachings to the world, but they are not enlightened teachers. They are not enlightened beings. They are just ordinary beings. Because of their ordinary nature, they are unskilled in this world. So that means Buddha teaches they don't have any idea about this life, this world, and how we have been born into this world, and about our past lives, about our future lives. They are unskilled in the other world, means they don't know what will happen after death. They don't know about karma. They don't know about the results of karma. They don't know about how this exists and continues in terms of the dependent origination. So they don't have that wisdom. So they are unskilled in this world and the other world. They also are unskilled in Mara's domain, right? And it is opposite, mean the domain where the Mara cannot enter or Mara cannot attack. They don't have any idea about that. They have not met the Mara, the evil one. Have you learned about the Mara, the powerful being who is against the wholesome qualities, the development of the wholesome qualities, and the the individual who is always like who tries to be an obstacle for this spiritual path, so that beings like they will have lots of difficulties achieving the stages of enlightenment and following the spiritual path. So that is how powerful he is. So these ordinary people, ordinary teachers, unenlightened beings, they don't know about this powerful being. They have not conversed with that being. They have not defeated that being. So they are unskilled in that evil one's domain. And they don't know how to escape from that dangerous thing, that powerful power. They don't know how to escape. They don't know the path. They don't know about jhanas, where Buddha teaches the evil one cannot attack the practitioners. So, and also these enlightened teachers, they are unskilled in the death domain and its opposite. That means death domain means they don't know how to stop this repeated death. They don't know how to stop this cycle of rebirth. So if there is rebirth, then definitely there is death, and this repeatedly, this cycle happens. So they don't know how to escape from this cycle. So that is the nature of their ordinary mind, because always it should be an enlightened being who understands all these deep aspects of life. So what happens is these enlightened people start teaching their doctrine. They try to present their opinion to the world, their doctrine to the world, and then some people start listening to them, and some people start following their wrong ways. And Buddha teaches that is also very dangerous, because they are following a wrong path. They are not going to escape from suffering. They are not going to understand the true nature of this life. They're not going to understand the true nature of the other life, right, after death. So they don't know how to gain happy rebirth. They don't know how to have a secure rebirth. So if anyone thinks they are worth listening to and trusting, it will be for their lasting harm and suffering. So eventually, as a result of following this wrong path, they will end up in plains of misery. That's the harm and suffering. That's the meaning of this practice will be their lasting, for their lasting harm and suffering. They will end up in rebirth in hell, ghost world, and animal world. So, and also they will make lots of bad karma without understanding the way to abandon bad karma. So that is the danger of the teachings and doctrine of unenlightened teachers. Okay, so we can learn about the intelligent cowherd.
Once upon a time, Mendicants, there was an intelligent Magadhan cow herd. In the last month of the rainy season, after inspecting the near shore and the far shore, he drove his cattle across a ford on the Ganges River to the land of the Suvidehans on the northern shore. First, he drove across the bulls, the fathers, and the leaders of the herd. They breasted the stream of the Ganges and safely reached the far shore. Then he drove across the strong and tractable cattle. They too breasted the stream of the Ganges and safely reached the far shore. Then he drove across the bullocks and heifers, and they too breasted the stream of the Ganges and safely reached the far shore. Then he drove across the calves and weak cattle. They too breasted the stream of the Ganges and safely reached the far shore. Once it happened that a baby calf had just been born. Urged on by its mother's lowing, even it managed to breast the stream of the Ganges and safely reached the far shore. Why is that? Because the intelligent cowherd inspected both shores before driving the cattle across at the ford. In the same way, there are ascetics and Brahmins who are skilled in this world and the other world, skilled in Mara's domain and its opposite, and skilled in Death's domain and its opposite. If anyone thinks they are worth listening to and trusting, it will be for their lasting welfare and happiness.
Sadhu, sadhu. So now Buddha taught about the intelligent cowherd, right? So he was very intelligent and he knew the right time for the crossing, right? So, and he knew how to do that in a very safe way. First, sending the strong bulls, the brave ones, right? First, and then everybody else followed them without any danger, without any disaster. They all crossed the river Ganges and safely reached the far shore. So Buddha teaches in the same way, there are ascetics and Brahmins who are skilled in this world and the other world. So what does that mean? What are those ascetics and Brahmins who are skilled in this world and the other world? So that is about the enlightened beings, the Buddhas. It is about the Buddhas. So Buddhas are the ones who know very well this world, who are skilled in this world, who are skilled in the other world. So the enlightened ones have this extraordinary understanding. Not only the Gautama Supreme Buddha, all the Buddhas. The Buddha has explained about the previous Buddhas, right? Buddha Vipassis, Buddha Sikhi, Buddha Kakusanda, Buddha Konagamana, Buddha Kassapa, like all the previous Buddhas, right? So, and also the future Buddhas, and Buddha has taught about the future Buddha, the Maitreya, Maitri Buddha. So all these Buddhas are skilled in this world and the other world. They know very clearly how we have been born into this world, what kind of karma gives rebirth in the human world, and how we experience pain and pleasure in this world, and how this dependent origination works in our life. And also Buddhas realize what happens after death and about the good worlds, bad worlds, right? So Sugati and Dugati, how evildoers repay in painful places after death, and how merit makers rejoice in their merit, in their good karma, in happier destinations. So Buddhas understand all these things. And also Buddha knows about the Mara's domain. For example, Buddha teaches if any defilements arise in somebody's mind, when the eye faculty is not guarded, when the ear faculty is not guarded, when the nose faculty is not guarded, when the tongue faculty is not guarded, when the body faculty is not guarded, and when the mind faculty is not guarded, because of the lack of mindfulness, when defilements arise, such as anger, hatred, lust, craving, desires, and all these negative, unwholesome qualities arise, Buddha teaches that is the domain of Mara. That is the domain of Mara. The sense desires, angry thoughts, these unwholesome thoughts. So Buddha explains very clearly, because Buddha is skilled in the Mara's domain. And also Buddha teaches its opposite. What is not considered as Mara's domain? Buddha teaches very clearly it is the Dhamma path. And when the mind is very well established, a practitioner's mind is very well established on the four establishments of mindfulness, Buddha teaches that is the opposite of Mara's domain. Mara cannot attack that person. Mara cannot arouse defilements in that person because his mindfulness is very well established in the four establishments of mindfulness on powerful, wholesome objects. And also Buddha teaches when the practitioner has attained the first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana, and formless jhanas, Buddha teaches that is the domain which cannot be accessed by the evil one. Buddha teaches those are very powerful mental states, powerful wholesome states where Mara cannot have any access. So like that, Buddha can teach about the dangerous areas and also the safe areas in this life. Then Buddha teaches these enlightened beings are skilled in death's domain and its opposite. So that means these enlightened beings knows how this existence continues and how beings face repeated death, how beings face repeated rebirth, and what are the causes and conditions behind that. Very clear understanding about this continuous existence. And also its opposite, death domain's opposite means Buddha knows how to stop this repeated rebirth and death, this cycle of rebirth. And because Buddhas realized the Noble Eightfold Path, the path to end suffering. And ending suffering means ending rebirth. So Buddha has that extraordinary knowledge about the path to end suffering. And Buddha teaches, if anyone thinks they are worth listening and trusting, it will be for their lasting welfare and happiness. So if anybody wants to, has any interest of listening to the teachings of such enlightened beings, they will be able to make lots of merit, good karma into their lives. They will start keeping precepts, practicing mindfulness, developing awareness and wisdom, and they will be able to attain stages of enlightenment in this very life. And with all of these wholesome qualities, the powerful development of wholesome qualities, they will attain happiness in this life and also happiness in future lives. So that's because of these beautiful teachings of enlightened beings. So now you can understand like how vast their wisdom is, like they understand everything about this life, about other lives, about this world, about other worlds. That's a powerful understanding about this existence. And what are you listening to? Are you listening to the ordinary teachings or the teachings of an enlightened being?
An enlightened being.
Yeah, so that's why you are very fortunate. Buddha teaches, if anyone thinks the Buddhas, the enlightened beings are worth listening to and trusting, it will be for your lasting welfare and happiness. So just that, this guarantee, right? That assurance should bring lots of joy and happiness to your lives. Okay, now Buddha teaches about all the fortunate disciples of the Buddha who have attained certain stages of enlightenment and who are on the path to attain stages of enlightenment. And they are like those fortunate bulls and cows and calves who crossed over the river Ganges safely and reached the far shore safely. Buddha teaches here, just like the bulls, fathers and leaders of the herd who crossed the Ganges to safety are the mendicants who are perfected, who have ended the defilements, completed the spiritual journey, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, achieved their goal, utterly ended the fetters of rebirth, and are rightly freed through enlightenment. Having breasted Mara stream, they have safely crossed over to the far shore. So this is about the Arahants who have attained the fourth stage of enlightenment. And Buddha explains here they are like those fathers and leaders of the herd, right? So these Arahants cross over samsara, cross over the existence of suffering, and they reach the safe land, which is Nibbana. It is not a place. It's not a place. It is a mental state. Nibbana is the mental state. And but when Buddha explains with the similes, Buddha teaches the Arahants reach the safe land. And It doesn't mean the physical land, but it's a synonym, it's a simile to understand that they have crossed over the ocean of suffering and reached an island called Nibbana, right? So it is just a simile. You should not misunderstand that Nibbana is a place. Buddha explains about Nibbana. Nibbana is the ending of craving. Tannakayo Nibbana, ending of craving. So it is totally a mental state. When the mind achieves the end of craving, and it is said that the mind has achieved Nibbana. So these are the beautiful achievements of those arahants. They are perfected. That means they have abandoned passion, hatred, and delusion, and all the unwholesome qualities. They are liberated from craving, clinging, attachment, and they have ended defilements. They have destroyed all the defilements. So there is no anger, no lust, no craving, no hatred in their minds. There are only wholesome qualities such as loving kindness, compassion, forgiveness, patience, mindfulness, awareness, wisdom. Only the wholesome qualities are found in their mind. And they have completed the spiritual journey, Katang Karaniyam, Vusitam Brahmacharyam. They have fully practiced the spiritual journey, the Noble Eightfold Path. They have completed the practice of all the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. Do you remember the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path? So they are right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So that is the spiritual journey. So that journey has been completed and fully practiced. Khatang Karaniyam, done what had to be done. If there is anything in this world to be done in order to end suffering, which they have done. So there is no more to be done. So that means this practice eventually come to an end, right? In this world, all the other ordinary things, there is no end to those things. There is no end. But this Noble Eightfold Path, this practice will come to an end one day. When the disciple achieves the end of suffering, this path also comes to an end. This practice comes to an end. Let down the burden. So they have laid down the burden. What is the burden? Burden is the 5 aggregates of clinging. Bharo, ohita bharo. They have lowered the burden. Because as long as there is craving and clinging for the five groups of clinging, 5 aggregates of clinging, it's like we are carrying a burden, like burden of pain, suffering. When there is craving for 5 aggregates of clinging, form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, and consciousness. That's the burden. They are not there to gratify our lives. They function as a burden. That's why the suffering enters this life. And they have achieved their own goal, which is the arahantship, the deliverance. Utterly ended the fetters of rebirth. So there are 10 fetters. As long as these 10 fetters are found in somebody's life, there will be rebirth. So they end all the 10 fetters. So as a result, the rebirth comes to an end. And they are rightly freed through enlightenment, right? So they safely crossed over to the far shore. So the near shore is samsara, the suffering. Far shore is nibbana, end of suffering. Okay, so that is the description about the Arahants. And then Buddha teaches about the second category of the noble disciples. Now, remember the cowherd, the intelligent cowherd helped all these bulls and cattle and cows to cross over safely, right? Always there is that intelligent cowherd as the leader, as the guide. So these fortunate arahants, they became so fortunate because they had the Buddha as their leader, as their guidance. So that's how they were able to cross over the samsara. Because the Buddha was very wise and smart, very intelligent. So then the second category of the noble disciples, Buddha teaches here, just like the strong and tractable cattle who cross the Ganges to safety are the mendicants who, with the ending of the 5 lower fetters, that means the Orambagi Sangyojana, 5 lower fetters, and they are reborn spontaneously in the Brahma world. They are extinguished there. That means they attain Nibbana there. And that is their final life and are not liable to return from that world. They will not come down to a lower world, to either to heavenly world or to the human world. They will remain in the Brahma world until they attain the final Nibbana. And Buddha teaches, they too, having breasted Mara's stream, will safely cross over to the far shore. So what are these noble disciples? They are non-returners, anagami, non-returners. They don't return from the Brahma world to a lower world. So when they become non-returners, by realizing the Four Noble Truths to a greater extent, they abandon identity views, sakkaya ditthi, silabbata paramasa, the wrong and useless rites and rituals, meaningless rites and rituals, and vicikiccha, the doubt. They also abandon sense desire and anger. So those are the 5 lower fetters abandoned by the non-returners. So where are they going to be reborn? In the
Sudhavasa Brahma.
Yeah, Suddhavasa Brahma world. Suddhavasa Brahma world. The Suddhavasa is a name for 5 Brahma worlds. So these non-returners will be born in one of those 5 Brahma worlds, and according to the different levels of wisdom, even though they are non-returners, there are 5 types of non-returners, Buddha explains. So some will attain final Nibbana sooner than the other ones, right? So that is the third stage of enlightenment. Then the Buddha teaches about the third category of disciples, very fortunate disciples, like those bullocks and heifers who crossed the Ganges to safety are the mendicants who, with the ending of 3 fetters and the weakening of greed, hate, and delusion, are once returners. Sakadagami, saking agami, sakadagami. So they return once only, right? They come back to this world once only. Then make an end of suffering. So what is the meaning of coming back to this world once only? So if somebody is a once returner in this life, they will be reborn one more time. Here, this world means not only the human world. This world means kama loka here. The meaning is kama loka here. So that means they will be reborn either in the human world or in the heavenly world. One more life. And that will be their final life. And how did they achieve that? By ending the three fetters, the first three fetters. Identity view, that means they realized the non-self nature of the body, feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness. They realized the impermanence and suffering and non-self nature of those five aggregates of clinging, the arising and passing away of those things. And there is no self, there is nobody to control those things, to take those things to their control. And they just understand that there is the arising and passing away of conditioned things. So that is how they abandon the Sakkaya. They also abandon the meaningless rites and rituals as the fetter, and they also abandon the doubt. Not only that, they also weaken the greed, hate, and delusion, right? Raga, dosa, moha, with the practice of Noble Eightfold Path. They have weakened those unwholesome qualities to some extent. They have not fully abandoned them. So, and they will be reborn one more time in the Kamaloka and make an end of suffering. Right? So they also overcome the Mara stream and safely cross over to the far shore. Right? So Arahantship is the fourth one, this is the third one, and then the second one is the Sakadagami, right? So this is, we are learning about the first stage of enlightenment now, right? So yeah, so this is the Buddha teaches here, with the ending of the three fetters are stream enterers, Sotapanna disciples. They have entered the stream. Stream is the Sota, enterer is the Apanna, and that's how Sotapannas. Sota means another name for the Noble Eightfold Path, right? So they have, what is the stream they have entered to? It is the Noble Eightfold Path. And they are not liable to be reborn on the world. That means they are not liable to be reborn in hell, animal world, and ghost world. They are bound for awakening. And within maximum of 7 lives, they will attain final Nibbana, right? So this is the first stage of enlightenment. They abandon the first 3 fetters. And when they are practicing for the second stage of enlightenment, they weaken the greed, hate, and delusion and attain the second stage of enlightenment eventually. So in the first stage of enlightenment, they only abandon the first 3 fetters. But that is also powerful because they understand the true nature of the 5 aggregates of clinging. Because they abandon the Sakkaya Ditthi, they abandon doubt, they abandon meaningless rites and rituals. So that's a powerful achievement, even as the first stage of enlightenment, right? So now Buddha explained about the disciples who attain the 4 stages of enlightenment, right? All the 4. So the first stage of enlightenment is Sotapanna, second stage of enlightenment is Sakadagami, the third stage of enlightenment is Anagami, the last stage of enlightenment, the 4th one is Arahant, right? So in English, the first stage of enlightenment is stream entry, the second one is once returning, the third one is non-returning, and the last one is Arahantship. And then Buddha teaches about the disciples who are following the path to attain the first stage of enlightenment. So these disciples are not yet attained the first stage of enlightenment, but they are practicing the path to attain the first stage of enlightenment. Okay, so Buddha explains here, just like the baby calf who had just been born, but urged on by its mother's lowing, the sound they make, right? Cows, following that sound of the mother, still managed to cross the Ganges to safety are the mendicants who are followers of principles. That means Dhammanusari disciples and Saddhanusari disciples. Both are on the path to extreme entry. Okay, followers of principle, Dhammanusari, and followers by faith are the Saddhanusari disciples. So Saddhanusari disciples follow the path with a good understanding about the Four Noble Truths, and they have a very strong faith in the enlightenment of the Buddha, and that faith never decreases, it only increases, because that faith is going to be unshakable confidence when they attain the first stage of enlightenment. So they are practicing the path, means they have this faith. It always leads towards the development. It will never decline, because they see the Dhamma in their life, little by little. When they apply the teachings to their life, they can see these some of the deep aspects in their life, even though they are still on the path to extreme entry. So Buddha teaches, they too, having breasted Mara stream, will safely cross over to the far shore. And Buddha teaches these Saddhanusari and Dhammanusari disciples who are on the path to extreme entry will definitely attain the fruit of extreme entry before their lifespan is over. So that's another guarantee from the Buddha. Yeah, did you understand that? Before their lifespan is over, those disciples who are following the path to extreme entry will definitely reach the extreme entry, the first stage of enlightenment, before their death. So they die as stream enterers, not as ordinary people. So how all these followers can achieve these advanced results? What is behind their success? It is the Buddha, the enlightened being. Buddha teaches, I am skilled in this world and the other world. That is the reason. I am skilled in Maras, the evil one's domain and its opposite. I am skilled in death's domain and its opposite. If anyone thinks I am worth listening to and trusting, it will be for their lasting welfare and happiness. And Buddha already explained how they attain lasting welfare and happiness by achieving the stages of enlightenment, right? So when they attain the first stage of enlightenment, they escape from hell, animal world, and ghost world forever. They will not make any bad karma that will otherwise lead to rebirth in those planes of misery. The disciples who attain the second stage of enlightenment, they already escaped from all the painful rebirths. They will only be reborn in the human world or in the heavenly world one more time. And then non-returners, they go beyond all the bad destinations. They go beyond the human world. They go beyond the heavenly world. They only reborn in the Brahma world, and that will be their final life. And the Arahants have surpassed all the rebirths, and they achieve end of rebirth in this very life, so they will not be reborn in any world, and that is how they escape from all the suffering, because when they escape from rebirth, they escape from death, sickness, old age, from all the mental and physical suffering. Can you see how much suffering in this world? Like you cannot say humans are wise. You cannot say. If humans are wise, then there shouldn't be this much of suffering in this world. Like if humans think that the path to happiness is killing, is shooting, stabbing, stealing, sexual misconduct. Can you conclude that this human mind is wise? It's only through the Buddha's enlightenment humans can find ending of suffering. Otherwise, this ordinary mind is far away from happiness and peace. The ordinary human mind cannot make decisions for the well-being of oneself and for the well-being of others. It's extremely difficult for that ordinary human mind to do that. You can see when you analyze this suffering in your life and suffering in others' lives, suffering in this world, we cannot see that wisdom among ordinary human beings. So we definitely need, the world needs the guidance of the enlightened beings, right? Though Buddha teaches those who follow these teachings, it will be there for their lasting welfare and happiness. And then Buddha concluded this beautiful discourse with these beautiful stanzas. This is what the Buddha said. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, this world and the other world have been clearly explained by one who knows, as well as Mara's reach and what is out of death's reach. Directly knowing the whole world, the Buddha who understands has flung open the door of the deathless. Another name for Nibbana is the state of deathless, Amata. For realizing the sanctuary extinguishment, Nibbana, the wicked one's stream has been cut off. Wicked one means here the Mara, the evil one. The stream has been cut. It's blown away and worn down. Be full of joy, mendicants. Set your heart on the sanctuary of Nibbana. Buddha teaches, because you have gone for refuge to such an extraordinary enlightened being who is skilled in everything, you can live very happily. You can live joyfully because Buddha has taught you everything. The dangerous path, the safe path, and everything. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So that is the shorter discourse on the cowherd from the Majjhima Nikaya.
I was just thinking, Bhante, that the similes are very beautiful, were very useful to explain what the Buddha wanted to say. It's very apt.
Yeah, very clear.
And the baby calf simile was seemed like a bonus because we usually used to seeing only the four stages of enlightenment. So, yeah, that's just something extra.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. So it encourages the followers, basically, who are even in the initial stage of the path, right? So they know that they are also safe and they also on the path of safety. So even though they have not attained any stage of enlightenment, they are still very safe and they are heading towards the secured state. So that's very good. It's a kind of a very strong encouragement, isn't it?
Yes.
So you don't need to worry thinking, oh, I have not yet attained any stage of enlightenment, right? Also, what will happen to me? You don't need to think like that. You just place confidence in the path and keep practicing. Because even those newborn calf are also safe and no need to worry, and they are no need to have any fear, because this path will save the honest practitioners. The path will do that, because this path is very powerful. That's why even the beginners, the initial practitioners, are also safe, because this path is powerful. So the initial practitioners means they have followed little things in the path. The advanced practitioners means they have achieved very advanced results in the path. So not only those who have attained the advanced stages of the path are lucky, but even the beginners of the path are lucky, right? So that's the beauty of the Noble Eightfold Path.
I have a question, Bhante. Being able to enter jhana states necessary for ending the lower fetters?
Ending the law of fetters means the third stage of enlightenment, right? Anagami, the non-returning stage. So Buddha teaches when the disciple, the practitioner attains the third stage of enlightenment, the non-returning. So then these two things are fully well practiced. The first one is Silesu Paripurakari, like they have a very good virtue. They follow the precepts in a very sharp way. So they have a very good virtue, very well restrained in bodily actions and verbal actions. So that is Sila. And then Samadhis mean Paripurakari. So that means they have a very good concentration. So they basically practice jhanas easily, and they can gain the jhanas very well, because there is one more stage of enlightenment for them to attain, right? So the last stage of enlightenment, which is Arahantship, and now they are, with the help of Sila and Samadhi, and also they are practicing the wisdom. This Sila and Samadhi and Prajna will help them to understand the very deep aspects of life, and as a result, they will attain the last stage of enlightenment. So Samadhi is a very supporting factor in achieving those advanced results.